Good morning from Palenque. We are in the state of Chiapas still. We traveled yesterday evening, or the whole day actually, 9 hours from San Cristobal to Palenque. There is also a faster route, but it goes with a minivan through the mountains, and apparently it is hell. So if you're sensitive on curves, you shouldn't take that ride. It should have taken only 4 hours, maybe 4 to 5 hours. So we drove all the way around from San Cristobal to Tuxtla to Villahermosa in the state of Tabasco, and then back to Palenque to Chiapas. And Palenque is an interesting place because it has very important Maya ruins here. It's tropical, it's very warm here because we are actually on the Gulf of Mexico side already from the Central Highlands.
Hola, buenos días, bienvenidos. 32 pesos cada uno.
Los dos. Gracias.
This is all the city of Palenque, the Maya city, and only the yellow buildings are digged out from the jungle. So 5% today is digged out and the rest is still covered by vegetation. And we are going first into the jungle and have a look at some buildings or pyramids or palaces which are still covered by vegetation, and then we will have a look at the main site. Later there's a way through the sites down here next to the river and the waterfalls, then to the Museum of Palenque.
So here you can see a baby tarantula in the jungle. It's not poisonous, but you shouldn't get the hair in your nose or in your eyes because you get allergy from that. We're entering the jungle next to the ruins. This is area where there are ruins, but they haven't been excavated yet. So there's only about 5% or so of the Palenque ruins that have been excavated. We are going to see that later. And we're going to start the tour with the discovery of the non-excavated area in this full jungle.
Cacao. Yes, it is beautiful.
It's how Mayas buy jewelry in Guatemala and Honduras. It was currency, money.
So this, for example, is a grave. This is a little hill in the jungle, and there's a big tree growing in the middle at the top, and they can realize that these are graves because there are artifacts coming out from the little hill, teeth, pottery and things like that that get washed out by the rain. So that's how they know that these are ruins. This is a Ficus strangulirus who has eaten a mahogany tree. So the mahogany tree is somewhere in the middle. This is a huge, gigantic tree.
Beautiful. So here in this jungle is another grave or thumb from the Mayas, and you can see that the stones are crumbling down and they have inscriptions on them.
Here, I don't know if you can see, but there is a wall. So this is still in the jungle, and there is a temple in there somewhere. So with NASA help from the satellites, they could sort of make a cartography of the area and find out what are the real tombs and real palaces here. And underneath,
I'm an archaeologist and digging out Maya sites. This is a big plate of stone
from the roof.
Some holes here inside where they were accordingly fixing the lians to pull the big rocks or heavy rocks to the side where they want to have them.
Temple. they're telling us something very important. They were temples built in clay, not with the regular cement.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's a very high price they have to pay for stucco, because they have to melt the rock, and they are burning massive areas of vegetation. I don't know.
That thing is a temple which has not been digged out yet, and it's higher than all the others, so they think it's an astronomical pyramid, but they don't really know. And this one is the Queen's temple, and there's the tomb. So this is the grave of the Red Queen, the Red Lady.
Is that me?
And in here they found her, and the red comes from the color of the walls that were here. The red color came from quicksilver, very toxic. And they also found out that she is not from this area. They sent her dead body in Miami for DNA tests, but they couldn't find any DNA because the quicksilver destroys the whole DNA. So they analyzed her teeth and realized that she's not from here. And her jewelry was also extremely polished, which is not the case from the jewelry of this area. So definitely she was not from here. So probably a political alliance made her come here because they didn't want to fight anymore. Decided to do political alliances.
This grave was all for one person.
Yes, and this is probably the last moment we can visit it. From the end of this year it's not going to be possible anymore. So we're lucky. And this
is the thumb.
Is probably the grave.
Thumb.
There is her grave, and you can see the red color on the side. And inside of the tomb is also decorated with frieze and all kinds of carvings. You can see the stone carvings here. And this is a huge grave, all for one queen. Here in the middle there's a grave of a French archaeologist who found the grave of Pacal, and he wanted to be buried as close as possible to Pacal, so here he is in the middle of Palenque. And we are lucky because we are visiting this place now in the beginning of October, and there's not many people here. It's low season, and during the high season, even to get to the tomb of the Red Queen, there's huge lines and a lot of waiting. We didn't have to do that at all. The Temple of the Signs. And next to it is the Royal Palace.
Sorry to correct you, Temple of Inscriptions.
Oh, Temple of Inscriptions.
And 12 years ago you were still able to go on top, but now it's also closed.
And this is the Royal Palace. So this tower is leaning to the south because of the 7th of May. That's the toilet, and there are benches here. So
Best way to go.
That's the best way.
here you can see some paintings.
There's a little fish inside. It's
Mural
beautiful.
paintings. Ceremonial place.
Exactly.
So they were perforating the tongue of the women and the penis of the men, and the blood was then
Donated to Mother
donated
Earth.
to Mother Earth.
To Pachamama.
So the position of hand on the shoulder symbolizes submission. So these are images of prisoners taken by the Maya rulers. So exactly.
orientation of the window, sunset. That's the illumination they have. Natural light of the sunset and bright walls, like mirrors. That's a bed over here.
Yeah.
And that's another bed behind you.
And there's a saying that the stucco was made from shells from the sea.
Limestone, basically limestone
to
and water.
reflect the daylight.
Are you familiar with the word dragon fruit?
Yes.
Well, the plant from the dragon fruit provides varnish. The sap from the plant is what they use on the stucco to make the walls shiny, very bright.
Okay.
No need for torches or candles.
This is mimosa plant. You can see when you touch it, the leaves they close. We're here on the top of the Sun Temple, Templo del Sol, and we can see here the Temple de la Cruz, and this actually forms with the third temple across the Grupo de Cruz on the central courtyard of the cross temples.
So we are on top now of the Temple de la Cruz. This is the highest temple, as you can hear. I'm a little bit out of breath again, but it offers spectacular views over the King Palace. And inside of the Temple de la Cruz is on the right side, or actually there are 3 ornaments on the wall. On the right side there's the god of the underworld who is smoking the pipe, and the smoke goes up and down, of course, because he's from the underworld. On the left side is Khan Balam in his fully king dress, and in the center there's another big carving where you can see how he's entering the crown or the chair.
People are tree hugging to get the energy from the tree for healing purposes. On the way out from the site, there's a pathway that takes you to the
museum. And look at
the museum.
Magic leaves. Only these leaves are moving.
Funny.
It's probably because of the special energy here in this place.
Probably. So this path takes you through the jungle, and you will see some waterfalls, and this ends at the museum. So this is actually the official exit, but apparently not many people are using this because their tour coach is probably waiting for them at the entrance, and we are going at the exit.
When you come to Palenque, don't forget to bring enough water. This is already our second bottle, which is almost empty. I'm completely wet. And don't forget to wear good shoes, because everything is really slippery because it's in the jungle.
No flip-flops.
No flip-flops allowed. And definitely bring mosquito spray, because there are a lot of mosquitoes because you're in the jungle, and also sand flies.
So here on the way out we can see all kinds of ruins that are less important, of course, than the palaces. But this shows how gigantic this whole place was, and some of them are residential buildings, and some of them are bath houses where they put hot stones and sprinkled water on top of them and created a sauna-like atmosphere to cleanse and to purify the body. We're back from the ruins. The ruins from Palenque city are about 8 kilometers away. It takes about 10 minutes to get there. We took a taxi colectivo, which means that it's a taxi that can take additional people on board. It's like an Uber pool thing. And we paid 40 pesos per person. And then we took the normal colectivo back, which is a minivan. It cost us 20 pesos per person. So there's enough taxis and colectivos to go to the ruins. The entrance to the park, actually, where the ruins are located, is 31 pesos or 32 pesos per person. The entrance to the ruins itself is 70 pesos per person, and you can get a guide there, which costs something between 500 and 1,500 pesos, depending on the amount of time they spend with you and the areas they will show to you. If you have a very good guidebook, we used actually for the first time Wiki Travel. We put Palenque in there and we got a very good information from Wiki Travel, which was surprising. It was even better than our travel book. But the travel books usually have a lot of information on Palenque, so you might need a guide or not, depending on how you feel about that. It took us 4 hours to go through the whole area. As said, the guide only showed us the highlights and we walked quite a long time ourselves. The tour ends at the museum. Museum is a quick thing, you might want to go in or not, it's included in the entrance price anyway, but most of the artifacts from Palenque are actually located at the Mexico City Anthropological Museum. You can watch the movie of the Anthropological Museum here. It was actually something that we realized we should have done after the visits of all these ruins, sort of to wrap it up at the Anthropological Museum. Palenque itself is not very interesting. It's you can feel it's based on tourism. We stayed at the Cañada area of Palenque, which in our mind is the best place to stay. It's the prettiest, the lushest, and the most calm. Culinarily and hotel-wise, Palenque is not very exciting, apart of a few exceptions. But yeah, people come here only once, so why would they invest in love when they do the things they do? You get very average food, very average coffee, very bad coffee actually. And so be prepared not to get a very culinary highlight. So this was the way we saw it in Palenque, in the state of Chiapas in Mexico. Thank you for watching. Subscribe here and Google will suggest another episode here. Thank you for watching. Safe travels always.